Welcome to Color Commentary, a podcast where the stories shaping our world are told in black and white first, and then we dig into their deeper meaning in full color. Each week, I'll be bringing you the news like this. First, we will start with what I call the black and white section, a clear, straight-shooting rundown of the facts in the tradition of greats like Ed Bradley, Walter Cronkite, and the classic voices of journalism. Then, we'll shift into the Color Commentary section where I add my own personal opinions and insights, my own flavor. Sometimes it'll just be me. Sometimes we'll have guests, but let's figure out exactly what this show can be together with your feedback shaping the journey. So let's get into it. Here is the larger topic first, but we have some other business that I want to take care of before we hop into it. Today's topic is California's grading wars, really America's grading wars. We're going to talk about grade inflation, mastery reform, and what grades are actually supposed to mean and why this matters to you. Because this can sound very education wonky and nerdy, but this is actually really one of the topics that we've covered that directly impact the vast majority of people that watch and listen to Color Commentary with Dr. Cole. America's grading wars. Grade inflation, mastery reform, and what grades are actually supposed to mean. And there's a special announcement that I need to make, which is a really good thing. And I think the people that follow me and watch the show and have been fans should hear it first. And they should hear it from me. It's all good stuff. So just as we jump into this episode, are we changing learning or are we just changing the scoreboard? And I just wanted to pose that question before I hop into this section, which is now through the magic of editing. We are now in today's black and white section. Today's story is about a question schools don't ask out loud enough. What is a grade actually supposed to mean? Now, we're looking at two connected developments out of California. Now, keep in mind, everything I say here actually does apply to the entire country. But because of my research, because of where I started my company, and because of where I grew up and where my studies have been, I'm focusing on California. But we will expand, okay? So we're looking at these two connected developments out of California. One focused on grade inflation and the incentives that's driving it, and another focused on grading reform that's spreading across high-performing districts, even when they avoid naming it directly. First, grade inflation and what's behind it. We also utilize the term grade illusion. Before I go deeper, let me explain from a high level what both of these mean. Grade inflation is when a student has not necessarily done enough to demonstrate that they've earned a high grade, yet they got it, right? So this is maybe somebody who, know somebody, their parents advocate and they get their grade changed and don't really necessarily deserve it, or the class is just watered down and is not very it's not doing everything it needs to, it's not very rigorous, and everybody there gets a really good grade. So grade inflation is when a grade should be lower and it gets inflated higher without just cause, and the young person may not know more. Grade illusion is similar but different. Grade illusion is more akin to that latter part that I talked about. So what grade illusion is, and what some of the schools that I work with that are there dealing with, is young people are doing the work. They're getting their 95% and earning their A. But what they're finding out is that the work that they did in that grade that they're mastering may not necessarily be up to par. It may not necessarily be on grade level. So an example, which is a lot of the research that I do and you're going to hear a lot about today, is you got all these kids in this English class. Let's say it's an English 11 class. And let's say all the kids got A's. Let's say 10 students. 10 students got A's. But then you go in and you say, oh, okay, these young people are in 11th grade English. They got A's and A pluses. Oh, okay. They should probably be reading on the 11th grade level. They should be at grade level if they have, these high marks. And what our research is uncovering and what you'll see in some of these articles is that's not necessarily true. Grade illusion is those kids have high grades. They've done everything that class has asked them to do, but somewhere along the line, the classwork does not correlate with the appropriate level of rigor that is required for that age group. So you have a lot of kids that are graduating thinking that they're high performing and thinking that they're prepared for the next level. And then they get to college or get into the workforce and they have a very, very rude awakening. Has everybody got both terms? Okay, cool. Let's keep it rocking. Okay. So let's talk about this grade inflation and grade illusion issue first. Article 1. A recent UC Davis report documented a troubling mismatch. Incoming college students are arriving with weaker math skills, even as K-12 grades have risen steadily over time. That gap is fueling renewed debate. Are higher grades reflecting more learning or just different grading practices? High school teacher Glenn Sachs, writing in Cal Matters, and we will link the article in the at the bottom, argues the pressure behind grade inflation is structural, not simply a matter of individual teachers choosing to be easy graders. He points to district systems and administrative expectations that shape grading outcomes through policies, monitoring, and how teacher performance is interpreted. Sachs described how the pressure shows up in LA Unified and similar districts. Schools track the number of D's and F's each teacher assigns, flagging too many low grades and treating high failure rates as signals that instruction should change. In some cases, the burden of documentation increases when teachers assign failing grades, requiring repeated parent outreach and extensive record keeping, creating a strong incentive for grades to trend upward. He also highlighted broader financial pressures. California districts facing declining enrollment operate under funding systems tied to attendance. School officials see grade inflation as a tool to keep students passing, attending, and graduating, protecting budgets and avoiding layoffs. Second, that's the first topic, right? So we got a grade illusion and grade inflation covered there. Here's the second issue we're going to tackle. Grading reforms move into high-performance suburbs, often under a different name. After San Francisco Unified dropped a high-profile grading for equity proposal following intense backlash in May 2025, similar reforms are appearing in other communities, including high-performance suburban districts in the East Bay's Tri-Valley region. According to the reporting by SF Chronicle, districts in Dublin, Livermore, Pleasanton, and San Ramon, which boast high graduation rates and above average test scores, have either rolled out or are considering reforms. But administrators are rebranding the approach using terms like standards-based grading, mastery-based grading, or simply grade reform, not equity. Dublin's Unified Superintendent Chris Funk told the Chronicle, "I'm not going to fight a dead fight when it comes to the word equity. It's about providing kids opportunities to demonstrate their mastery over a course of time." In practice, the changes being adopted include more retakes and revisions on assessments, fewer zeros as punishment tools, eliminating extra credit as a grade booster, shifting grades towards demonstrated mastery, not point accumulation. Dublin Unified rolled out these changes last July. And early reported outcomes include A's staying roughly steady with a decrease in zeros and failing grades and more grades clustering in the middle. Now, San Ramon Valley Unified is just beginning to gather feedback from parents, students, and teachers about potential changes, forming a grading committee rather than working with outside consultants. One district featured in earlier reporting had planned to partner with Joe Feldman, author of Grading for Equity, but changed course after parents' concerns while still implementing parts of the approach. And now here's our third piece. I know it's a lot, but y'all got it. Y'all can handle it. I got to build up the context. What happens when students actually investigate the grade proficiency gap themselves? Now, this grading debate isn't theoretical for me. I'm currently researching this exact issue with high school students in Oakland, that same East Bay that we just talked about. They also talked about the San Francisco part, West Bay. Nobody says West Bay. You just say San Francisco, okay? So just for people out there not familiar with the Bay Area, let's do a triangle, all right? And the 3 points. This is how the Bay Area is split up. You got San Francisco, which is the West Bay. It's the main piece, is the thing that people recognize outside of California. San Francisco Bay Area. It names the whole thing. Then, if you go south to the South Bay, that's Silicon Valley. That's your San Jose's. That's where Stanford is. Like all that stuff, right? Stanford is also its own city, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. That's called the South Bay. And then where I grew up in Oakland is the East Bay. So all these places that I just talked about, Pleasanton, Dublin, those are the suburbs. Those are the more kind of richer areas outside of Oakland. Like these are like 20, 30 minutes up 5. Okay. Well, down 5, however you want to look at it. I think it's down 5 technically. Whatever. Semantics. The point is, now we're talking about some of the work that we're actually leading. I had no idea that these 2 articles have been written. So when I saw it as I was preparing for the session, today's episode, I quickly scrapped everything that I was doing to talk about what I live and do every day. So let me tell you about our program. So Energy Converters is an agentic program where we work with young people throughout the country. I do focus a lot on the East Bay, but we work throughout the country to work with young people so they can do their own research on their own education and academics. The reason that I do that is there's a book that I wrote that has some other research of mine. And the biggest finding that I had in this book, in my initial research, is that when young people want better academic outcomes, when young people see the value in education, it changes their life a ton. So we work to build agency, and we break that down into 3 parts. We make them more aware, there's navigation, and then there's duty. Awareness, navigation, and duty. That's our A&D model. And through our Agentic Fellows program, we are currently working with a local charter high school who has been great with us, where 22 student researchers have been conducting participatory action research, examining why their grades tell one story while state assessments tell another. And their findings, which will be detailed in the forthcoming report titled From Awareness to Action, When Students Lead, Schools Transform, they reveal a systemic perception gap. At this particular high school, 74% of students believe that they were reading on grade level, but actually only 31% actually met state proficiency standards. It's a 43-point gap between perception and reality. And it's not just this school. Just the year prior, we talked to 350 Oakland students from across the city, high-performing students, and the numbers were very similar. A large percentage of them thought that not only were they reading on grade level, but that they were also proficient in their STEM classes. And the report showed that there was a similar level point gap between what students are believing about themselves and what the data is telling them. Now, listen, I am not the person, the state assessment means X, Y, and Z. That is more important than this, that, and the third. I'm not getting into that argument. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the very wish tools that there's a social contract by which we measure whether a child can read or is proficient in their STEM classes, there's an incongruency between the grades they're receiving and what they're actually showing. Still with me? I know it's pretty nerdy, but stick there because this has a lot to do with everybody listening. Whether you are a student yourself, whether you have kids, or whether you're just a community member and these schools are in your neighborhood, this stuff is important. So just to recap on our 3-phase framework, and I promise you will be out of grad school in 2 minutes, all right? But I got to set the stage so I can give my opinion. There's awareness, which is analyzing the school performance data with these young people. Then there's navigation, assessing individual proficiency levels. And then there's duty, designing student-led interventions, ensuring students are spreading the gospel and making sure that their peers know not to just look at their report card, but to ask additional questions. This stuff is important. And these fellows discovered that while this high school standard not met rate dropped from 48% in 2022-23 to 37% in 24-25, they are still lagging behind the state average of 14 percentage points. The students identified their biggest opportunity is the 32% of 11th graders who scored nearly met. And these are students that are close to proficiency who often believe that they're fine because they have passing grades. Now, listen, we're not going to just go into all of our stuff, but I will give you where we are in the midst of this research, okay? They are implementing their own interventions and starting it. Actually, I'm flying to Oakland tomorrow, and we're rehearsing and working on this, but they will be presenting to leaders, both of their school, their charter CMO, their district, but also this stuff is going to get presented to school boards, state superintendent, and introduced to other states, right? Once we actually publish the research. We have submitted the beginnings of this, but we're going to submit the final research to the American Educational Research Association's READY program. So fingers crossed, okay? That's what we're actually doing about it. So as I give this commentary, when we move out of black and white, I don't want you all assuming that I'm just speaking from a place of just reading and not understanding and not knowing this. I know this from a few different vantage points. But the biggest one is that I lived it. I graduated with a 383 GPA. I had a basketball scholarship. I did debate. I did all the things that one should do. And when I got to college, I had AP English and all these AP classes. And then I got to college and didn't know what a thesis was. How are you getting an A in an AP English class and you're not pristine on a thesis? Needless to say that I went back and had to do remedial English and I did remedial math. Took me a year in that same year. So my first freshman year, while I also had I had a job off campus. I also had work study because I paid for my own college. I had to take out my own grants and loans, and I had to do full work study. I had both of those jobs, and I took 20 plus units the first year of college. And I did well still. I still graduated in 4 years, went on to grad school and all that stuff. So you can come back from being behind, but I'm not going to act like I didn't feel some kind of way about being behind. Had I known, I could have did something about it. And you want to know, out of all these stories that I just listed, the biggest reaction, every young person, the over 500 young people that have taken this survey in some form over the last 2 years, all the young people we've talked to, trained, or whatever, they all were upset that their school, or they felt that their school wasn't being straight up with them. And they wished that they had known. So we really are working very hard to make sure in upcoming report cards, not just in Oakland, but hopefully in California, hopefully in the nation. I think report cards, and my students also, my fellows are researchers. We have collectively landed on, we think every report card should list what grade level you're reading on. And just as a bonus, for STEM classes, we think that proficiency should be listed right next to that grade. And I bet you grade inflation and grade illusion will start to be addressed, but that's neither here nor there, okay? So I'm very proud of the work that we did at Energy Converters, and I'm gonna make this announcement here while we're still in this session because all of this is still facts. A while ago, Tommy, a few years ago, I started a 501c3 called the Agentic Institute. Now, I put that on hold because I built it to continue to honor the legacy of my fallen friend, Dirk Tillison. Many of you know him, some of you don't. Look him up. He's incredible. And another one of his friends had a different org, and we came together. We brought our orgs together so we could honor his legacy and honor his memory and do this work. And we're still in very good partnership, but the call to build this institute based off what I believe, and that I believe there should be more institutions in our communities led by Black people that's focused on Black people. And I think there should be some that's, if you're in Appalachia, I think there should be a institute focused on poor white people that's led by people that grew up in the Appalachia. I used to live in Kentucky. So, but I feel the same way about Latino. I feel the same way about East Asian. I feel when you belong to a certain group that you want to make sure that there's research happening that involves you and the people that you care about. So with that said, the Agentic Institute is officially up and running. I, as its founder, and all of Energy Convertors operations have come underneath that. But what this also allows us to do is, before I was just limited to students and schools, I think to really do agency right, you have to focus on the true end users of education. And that's threefold. That's those students, but it's also their parents and grandparents, their family, and it's their community. All three need agentic tools. All three need agentic data. All three need agentic reports. And that's what we are trying to build. So if you would allow me and indulge me a little bit on these two topics, I'm going to be speaking on these things as the founder of the Agentic Institute. Okay? All right. Back to this. So this research is a part of our national work, training students as education researchers. We have young people in California, Louisiana, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana. They're all over. Okay, we have more as well, right? Then on top of this work, and when I'm reading these articles and how they talk about it, I'm fascinated. I'm truly, truly fascinated. And that's what we're going to tackle. I have a lot of opinions on this. We'll make sure that you get the original articles. But now, let me do what I do. That is the news in black and white. Those are the facts, the shifts, and the stakes. Let's talk about it. I cannot wait for this color commentary section because you are now listening to Color Commentary with Dr. Cole. And as always, I have a few different thoughts on this story. Now listen, I want to make sure that we are like really having this conversation. First, this is not an insider baseball issue. And I'm going to go through this different stakeholders because I think you need to know how this impacts you. So for parents, if you are a parent out there, do you know if your child, first, do you know if your child has good grades, right? Let's start there. Looking at their grades, and most parents do, right? This is the thing. Is that video game getting taken away? Am I buying these shoes? Is my daughter getting a car? Is my son going to be able to play football? Like grades carry a lot of weight in traditional households, okay? So if your kid is a kid that has good grades, and you're probably like, yo, my kid is on top of it. You know, you're assuming that if your kid got an A in the 12th grade English class, that he's reading on 12th grade English. And it's just, you have to ask more questions. And there's so much overwhelming data from these two articles that I showed and our research that means that I have to teach you all, hey, here are the additional questions you ask. So parents, you need to listen to this. It's important for you. Students, if you're a student, even if you're in college, have you ever really been told your actual proficiency level? Or do you just get the grade? Like if I asked you right now what grade level you're reading on, if you're in 10th grade, how would you know? Now, if somebody has talked to you about it, kudos to them. What we've learned in our research and talking to people is that the vast majority of these students, no adult has ever talked to them about their proficiency level, just their grade. Families, when schools say they're reforming grading for equity, who's tracking whether kids are actually learning more? You have to be aware of these politics and these policy wars that are happening because there are fighting factions. And I will tell you about these factions, okay? There are the anti-reform people and there are the reform people. And ironically enough, both of these articles come from both camps. The anti-reform people that basically wrote the one article that said, don't blame the teachers about this. This is the teachers union group. Don't blame the teachers on this. They are incentivized to hike up these grades. They are incentivized to give out these B's and A's. The system is pushing them to do it because there's just more BS they got to go through when it's an F or a D. So that's one of the articles. Then there's the other approach from the reform people. And again, I want to be very clear about where I stand. I'm not a gangbanger. I ain't never joined a gang in my life. Gangs ain't just Bloods and Crips either. It could be some of these groups. There are parts of both of these reports that I agree with, and there are places where I would push back on either of these. Okay? Just want to be clear. I do believe that one side, and that's their job, but nobody says it out loud. I think one of those sides definitely cares more about their constituency and their dues more than they care about children. And listen, I'm not saying this in a derogatory way. I'm just telling you the nature of a union. I'm a supporter of unions. I'm a young black man. We can have a different conversation how unions in this country started and who they were designed to protect and not protect. For the record, I'm not saying everything goes back to slavery, but unions got very, very strong after black people could get on that market. And many of those early unions prevented the black workers from being in said union or protecting them in their jobs. But that's a whole other conversation. I'm not going there. We're not doing that. I'm just telling you. Okay. But I do have an issue when it feels as if people are more concerned with upperly mobile, secondary and up degreed, meaning these are people that have grad school experience, multiple degrees. We're more worried about them than the young people who are frankly helpless and depend on them for their learning. I just think we should be checking in more on the actual end user. I think you should check in on everybody. Teachers deserve to be paid better. They deserve respect. They deserve to be pillars in our community they once were. In fact, before Brown versus Board, if you were a black educator in your community, you were kind of big shit. Then Brown versus Board came along with a bunch of unintended consequences. Some would argue that those consequences were very intended, and it wiped out the black teaching force, which is still to this day never fully recovered. So now you have a bunch of schools with black and brown poor kids across this country, and the vast majority of those teachers are white women coming in talking to your black ass or your brown ass kid. Not saying they can't do a good job of it. I've had a lot of teachers. I've had a lot of teachers of very different races. I've had good teachers that did not look like me, but more bad teachers. That's just the truth. And to be very fair, I don't think that you're just a great teacher just because you're black. I've had black teachers. Some of them have been great. Shout out to Mr. Brown, one of the greatest educators I've ever met in my life. But for every Mr. Brown, there was 4 or 5 that looked like me that were not good. I'm not playing politics there. I'm just giving you the real. Communities. So why should communities care? We saw about why families should care, students should care, parents. Well, community, take all the stuff that I said for parent, right? Like, what are we talking about? But when we say we're avoiding equity, but implement equity policies anyway, what does that say about who has power to name what's happening? Listen, there's a lot of people, regular, everyday, average people that just want the world to be a better place. They feel like they want things to be free, but you are caught up in the 2025, 26 politics of the day. And equity is one of those words and terms that if you're on the right, and everybody on the right doesn't feel this way, but you hate that term. You don't like it. You feel that it's unfair. You're doing everything to dismantle anything with the word equity in it. So schools are starting to have to pay for that, right? They're starting to have to change up a bunch of things. There's a bunch of positions that might have been there from an equity standpoint to make sure that young people have better representation. And those are all but gone. Not only are they all but gone, it leaves you open to being sued. Right? So then you have another group of people that feel like they just need to do what is right. I think if we weren't such a trendy population and we didn't fall in love with terms more than we fell in love with people, and we were able to be strategic and get the people what the people needed, then you would do what is required. So that's why community should care, because get underneath whatever buzzword they're using. Will this help the kids in your community, because the better the school is, the smarter the kids will be, and the smarter the kids do, and the better they do, the better they can do in life. The better they do in life means the better they can do for that community. That's why this stuff matters. I don't have kids, but I'm very, very concerned about what's happening in our schools, because it has an impact on my quality of life. I actually care about people that look like me. I know how hard it was for me to get to where I am, and it should not have to be that hard for anybody, let alone people that look like me. But that's why it's important for communities, right? Like, again, know the war that you're fighting. You want to make sure your kids deserve a quality education in this country. We pay for it. And also, these are our kids. These kids are in America being educated, or in one of the American, one of the American spots across this country. Like, they deserve to be educated well. And so whether you're calling it equity or something else, or finding, hey, listen, man, I just mentioned Spook Who Sat by the Door. And I want equity. It's something that I believe in. I also, if I need to use another term, but get these young people in these communities exactly what they need, and get these other people out my face and out of my way to do it, I'd rather take the material win. I'd rather take an actual win for our young people. Because there's a lot of people that will do this and they will grandstand and know that they're not about to change anything, but they said it. Well, that's cool. They already got their degree. They already got a good paying job. They straight. Ain't nothing on the line for them. So community members, I don't know what side you fall on this stuff, but I would assume that we all fall on the side that education needs to be better than what it is, and it needs to be accessible to all. So that's what I'm saying. And aside from just talking about it, I have gotten more work done with just more than 20 15 to 17-year-olds as far as diving into this data, talking about it, having these young people process. Now those same 22 students are about to educate the rest of the people in their school. Now those 22 students are also working very closely with their school's admin, who is great, by the way, who loves that their young people are looking into this data, who's not hiding behind this stuff, but saying, yeah, we want to do better and need to do better. What are your ideas? And I'm flying across the country to watch it happen and to train it happen. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, because these 22 young people, if we actually get this report card upgraded and actually are making sure that the community, the parents, and the student are more aware of where they actually are, so they don't have to find out later in life, I will do whatever is necessary. I'll do whatever is necessary. So that is what I'm riffing about, man. You got to get in the game. Now, look, I work in education. I don't expect you to. But I do want you to be able to ask these follow-up questions. So whether you're a parent or has a friend who's a parent or no parents, whatever the case is, the next time that kid get their report card, look at those grades. Pass out whatever you pass out. If you give your kids treats for getting good grades, keep doing that. Talk to them. We want young people to have good grades. It's a motivating factor. It matters. It matters to them. But whether you're the student or the parent, ask the next follow-up question. Am I proficient in this right here? I don't want to mess up my grade, but am I proficient? How are we showing that I'm proficient, that I've mastered? Am I mastering the content? Am I mastering the concepts so I can be in this society and have critical thinking skills? Systems are not going to hand you critical thinking. You got to go grab that. You got to go take it. Organizations like ours have to be working along with open-minded administration who actually cares about these things too. That's what you got to do. And you got to stop passing the fight on. Because many of you have a lot of education. Many of you have great paying jobs. Many of you, are not working in really, really tough, low wage jobs and feeling stuck there. And again, I started in those jobs. I think those jobs are important. I think they're special. We need those people to do it. And at the same time, I promise you, I'm going to make sure a young person has everything they need to be successful. And that's arming them with information. People like to when somebody wants to keep information from you, something like this, you got to ask why. You got to ask why. And here's my expectation if you run a school. If the biggest hurdle you got is the term equity, but you want to do something that's truly equitable, I would expect smart people to be able to get in the room and figure that out and figure out how to rename something and still do everything you want to do that's going to help your students, their parents, and their communities and yourself. See, that's acting agentically. It's not grandstanding. It's not just trying to get a win on social media. It's not just trying to show people that you hip, that you with it, that you with the shits. It's not trying to show people that you more woke than them. It's not trying to just show people that, you know what I'm saying? Like somehow because you know this inside language that you better than them. It's not about that. It also ain't about this whole, we afraid of black and brown people actually getting what they deserve or getting educated. Or I know y'all act like equity is the boogeyman sometimes. I know you do. I know y'all do. On his head is just giving everybody what they need to be successful, including you, including yours. But I get it. But I expect somebody that's risen up through the ranks and has the title of superintendent or school founder or CMO leader or whatever. If you can't figure out how to handle a semantics issue, I'm worried if you got the skill set to prepare 500 plus, 5,000 plus, 50,000 plus young minds to go into this world. And if you're afraid to do what's right in the setting that's built for you to do what's right, why are we surprised when we are not raising people to be critical thinkers? Why are we surprised that Facebook ads can change the perception of so many people and then be found that it wasn't credible? Why are we falling victim to so many bots on social media that's telling you how to think or telling you what to be angry at? How can you be surprised that we've devolved as a people to the point where we've trained social media algorithms to give us not information, but either make us feel really, really good or really, really angry? I trace that back to poor education. I trace it back to being lazy readers, which a lot of us are. It's hard. You got to teach somebody. It's like, listen, man, some people get into reading and they love it immediately. But a lot of you that love teaching, your kindergarten, first and second grade teacher had a lot to do with it if you love reading. We're the same people that moved away from phonics. I learned how to read through phonics, not through vibes. For 20 plus years, we've just been teaching kids how to read through vibes. How you feel about that word? Man, if you don't sound that thing out, and there's a lot of words in English you can't sound out, but I'm telling you, it just phonics, the science of reading is real. Okay? Listen, man, grades are a signal, okay? They're a college readiness signal. All right? So you need to understand this larger theme. Are we looking at grades that helps a barometer for college and life and where our prepared level is? Or Are we using grades as a shield? Are we using grades to hide systemic failures? Stay with me. Let me tell you how that happens. In the lovely place of Oakland that I grew up, wasn't born there, I was born out here in Illinois, but I grew up in Oakland. I went to Oakland schools. And some years ago, there was a study done in Oakland. And it wasn't good. They found that black kids were getting suspended too much, that they was out of school too much, that they were dropping out, things like that. So there was a civil rights report that came out, and it told them that they had to do things. You know what happened right after that? A lot less people flunked out of high school. Is it because we just improved education so much? No, it's not. What happened is, you can just pass them through. If I give him a D or an F, I got to deal with X, Y, and Z. Give his ass a C minus. He's out of here. C's get degrees. I'm going to tell you the other secret that I think is just one of the worst kept. And I say this as somebody who's worked in schools all over the country, worked with teachers and principals all over the country, worked in schools that are thriving and failing. A lot of teachers haven't mastered the content. They say repeat things 3 times so people understand it. That's one. A lot of teachers haven't mastered the content to be able to teach it well. A lot of the teachers have not mastered the content to be able to teach it well and assess it well in your kid. So parents, when you go to a school, you should ask about, what's the plan for this unit? Hey man, what should my kid know at the end of this semester? What should my kid know at the end of the year? What should a 9th grader in this in this biology class know? I think biology might be 10th grade now. I don't know. You get the point. Here's what agency requires. Students plus families plus communities all having access to real data and being committed to it. And this is why we need Black institutions. Again, where's my book? It fell. Hold on. I wrote about it in here too. There's this thing that I write about called the invisible institution. And people may push on this and have other thoughts, but this is how I look at the invisible institution. You think about times during slavery where people couldn't just read. They weren't supposed to read. But they still found ways to gather, and some of them could secretly read. And the ones that could secretly read, like they still found joy, and they still tried to put joy in other people. And then when things got real and they had to revolt, they talked about those things. They had special meetup places. They had ways in which places that they went to where they learned things that were germane to their survival. And then these invisible institutions, they take place in the Black church. They've taken place in mosques. They've taken place at a daycare center. They've taken places in that really dope educator you love in his house, in her garage. I think we need spaces that's teaching us about us without other people looking in from an outsider's point of view. I think the research that they've done is fine. I'd like to look at it from our perspective and see if it's really inclusive of us. And I'm not jealous when other groups do this. I think that's a mistake that sometimes people make. I think people will fight for themselves and fight for their people and be offended when other people start fighting for themselves and their people. I just don't happen to think it's a total zero-sum game. I think in some places it is. But I think that the people that's fearing better education or better academics or better outcomes for people that may not look like them, I think it's overblown, and I don't think that I can't tell anybody how to feel. I think it's an overblown feeling. And I think it's the truth. I'm very aware that there are people that are afraid of these things. I'm very aware that there are people that bank on your ignorance. There are people that know that the least Those that are that have the least amount of critical thinking skills are the easiest to distract and to be distractors. Now, I'm somebody that believes we can do multiple things at once. I think that we can build out our Black institutions, fix this grading thing, make sure we got the education we deserve, and still go to concerts and like the music and movies that we like and like the entertainment. I am not the poo-poo police. I do not care what you like. If you like it and it brings you joy, by all means. I am not up here with a kufi telling you that you're not Black. I am not the person that's about to be out here passing out all kind of judgment because I fuck up all the time. What I'm telling you is if you're hearing this, you have more power than you think. And that power starts by building your knowledge base. What I'm telling you is you should go and do research and say, oh, let me look up grade inflation here. Let's see if that's a thing. Let me see what I find. Oh, shit. Let me see if there's something written about grade illusion. Maybe I have my own experience with it. Maybe, oh, snap, I've been feeling inadequate because I went to college and I wasn't a good reader or I wasn't good at the thing. Maybe I graduated, maybe I didn't, but I've been holding this inside and feeling like I'm just stupid or I failed on this opportunity. And you didn't even know it was systemic. And for my people that know it's systemic, even though it is systemic, even though there's a system that's being fought, even though there's money and things against you and all this stuff, is still your responsibility to try to improve it as much as you can because you and the people you love and care about have to deal with the consequences. These are called life equations, meaning that the equation is not fair, but a reckoning must come so that you may live. I don't allow the term fair to be used in some cases when I'm working with young people. And the reason why I'm big on that is because in life isn't fair. There will be moments when you have favor, and there will be moments when you feel like the cloud is directly over your head and your head alone. And it is life. You do not control those things. You only control how you respond. And you know what helps you respond better? Critical thinking skills. Listen, man. I want our young people to master the content they're supposed to learn and know. Do I have my critiques and criticisms with some of these tests? Absolutely. Hell, I am open for the district, the city, the state, for somebody to come up with a definition of literacy or how that works. That maybe it doesn't. Maybe you don't like the current way that it's done. A standard that everybody agrees on, because there are so many kids and adults that are walking around this world functionally illiterate. So make the call. This ain't about whether retakes are good or bad. Kids can have multiple shots at things. I'm fine with that. I also don't think that you just deserve an A because you appear. I think you got to work for it. I think you got to earn it. I think you value it more when you actually do earn it. This is about whether families know what's happening with their kids. Some are going to do a lot. Some are going to take a lot of action, and a lot are not. Maybe most of the people won't take additional action. But so what? You don't get to be the arbiter of who can have information or not. Put the information out there and people will do what they will do because people have free will. And I will get on microphones and I will talk to people and I will try to convince them that they should pay attention to it. And you have every right, if you disagree, to say, well, all that shit is racist. I don't like it. I don't think we should do any of it. I don't even believe in grades. That's your prerogative. But that battle should happen between us whilst information is being made public to the people. This is about whether you believe students deserve the power to demand honest answers of that which will directly impact them, especially if they don't have a rich mommy and daddy and a safety net. Are you arguing that students don't need to know? Are we doing the Trump thing with COVID? Just stop taking the test. Are we doing that? Is that what you want? Listen, ignorance is bliss. I've been trying to get back to the bliss of my ignorance for a long time. It's hard to go back, even if you want to. But that'll be a terrible excuse to not give students their real information, to that which they have earned. This is about building the institutions that can tell the truth and design solutions, man. So it ain't enough to just be like, oh, that test is racist. This is that. This is that. I've been hearing how racist standardized test is. I'm 42, my entire life. And I don't disagree. What I do push and say, well, right now, this is the standardized measure by which we are looking and assessing in large numbers and can keep some type of integrity in it. And it probably is serving us a lot poorly. So why haven't we built something new? We got so many smart people. Make one that's less racist. Make a better test. Build a better mousetrap, man. We are in the age of AI. We are now in the age, and again, that toothpaste is out. It is out of the tube. You cannot put it back in, but you know what it does allow for? And it should not replace teachers. It should not replace teaching and learning. You know what it can do, though? It can help that kid see in real time how close they are to mastery. You can design classes and sessions that let children and students, even college students, go at their pace. That means in a classroom of 25, there might be a portion of the class that's ahead. There might be a portion of the class that needs to spend a little bit more time on this lesson. And some places are doing this. It's just that sometimes those places often tend to have more money than the other places, or they often have parents that have different resources. And sometimes a poor district does get it. I'm not, because somebody will give me an example and send them. I want the examples. I think that's a beautiful thing. And once you put it on my social media or email it to us, I will blow it out. I will scream it to the heavens because it's important. Listen, part of my mission for this Agentic Institute is that we're going to close perception gaps and build real agency. We need institutions that serve students, families, and communities, not just systems designed by people who've never experienced what our students experience. I am not a genius. I am not the smartest man or guy. I've worked hard. I'm not the richest. But I did grow up in those neighborhoods. I did go to a double-digit number of elementary schools. I did go to school all over this country as a child. I've been to school in Illinois as a kid. I've been to school in Kentucky as a kid. I've been to school all throughout the Bay Area, from Hayward to Oakland and wherever. You need more people that have gone through this machine, that this machine has done irreparable damage to, but they don't hate the people in the machine. They just hate what the machine did to them, and find a way to make this machine work for us and work for everyone. If you feel strongly about anything said here, shoot us an email. Maybe I'll invite you to the show so we can have this conversation. I would love to, actually. But those are my thoughts, and I can't wait for us to finish the report. As soon as I do, I will bring it here. It should be done around April, May. If anybody wants to be a first reader on that, please reach out. Thank you for listening to Color Commentary. We love to hear from you. So drop us an email at colorcommentarypod@gmail.com. That's colorcommentarypod@gmail.com. And if you like my love language is self-determination shirt, this is one of my exclusives. You can find that I just threw the book again. You can find that in all of our other merch, my Love Languages Agency, Can't Gentrify This Vibe, all that stuff. And I will have some color commentary merch coming soon, but you will find all of that at charlescole3rd.com. That's charlescole3rd.com. Go to the bottom and you can grab it. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the show. Leave us a 5-star rating, share it on social media, and join us every Thursday for more color commentary with Dr. Cole. Peace and God bless. And to my Bears, you lost a tough one. You overachieved this year. I'm very, very proud of you all. And I will say this as a Bears fan. I wanted to go further, and I definitely wanted to win a Super Bowl. And we kind of did win the Super Bowl. When you beat the Green Bay Packers in the first round of the playoffs, coming back from being down 18 points in a historic performance by the greatest quarterback in just 2 short years, and one of those years sucked. That is Caleb Williams. He is now the best quarterback that Chicago has ever had. Shout out to Jay Cutler. I do like Jay Cutler. You was a gunslinger, buddy. I appreciate you. You wasn't going to win nothing, but you was fun to watch, especially when you got mad. And then you beat the Packers the way you did. And then you got that coach who's just a psycho. You love it. You just love it. So special shout out and outro to the Chicago Bears. Best of luck for you. Everybody else, hope to see you all next week. Peace out.